main thing that students don't know is how can they get these 5 marks in the interview based question, and it's also called short response question. Let me share with you the marking rubric, and I will tell you the most important thing that student basically forget to do in this question, and they lose marks. They usually get 1 out of 5 marks and 0 out of 5 marks. Okay. So this marking rubric is divided into three things. One is stating your opinion, supporting details, and then development. Okay. So let's see how can you include these three things in your answer. First, let's talk about stating your opinion. Okay. So I will just summarize it for you in very easy wording. Basically, the character perspective. You have to have a clear character's perspective after reading the text. And then what you can do, you can just take the stance on this character's behalf. Either you have to say yes or no. I agree, I disagree. I believe, I don't believe. You cannot take a balanced argument. Do not take a middle ground. This is very important. This is how you can get the marks of the stance. And if this, let me just tell you, if this point is not correct, if you don't answer from the character's perspective, this is not your personal perspective, this is the character's perspective. Okay. And if you don't answer on this character's behalf, you will not get rest of the marks also, even if you do it correctly. So make sure that you understand the character's perspective in the text, and then you answer on this person's behalf. Second thing is supporting details. How can you add the supporting details in the answer? So supporting, the most important thing is do not invent the details that are not in the text. Supporting details means it has to be added from the text. This section has to be added from the text, and you will get 1 mark. So you have to identify three supporting details from the text. So you have selected the perspective. Okay. Now you have to basically, as a proof, you have to give these supporting details proving this character's perspective. Okay. So make sure that whatever perspective you have chosen, relevant to those details, that perspective, you choose the supporting details. And the third thing is development. Okay. So this is the most important thing. This is how you can get the highest marks, more than 2 marks in this question. That's why students don't get more than 2 marks in this question, because they don't get the development right. What is development? It is basically explaining why your supporting detail matters, what the consequences would be, and how it connects to a bigger picture. So here is an example. Then I will tell you specifically what development is. Okay. So this example is from the past paper. Okay. Everest local business person. So the detail that we have selected here is tourism supports local business. Okay. Let's suppose this is the detail that is relevant to the character's perspective, and we have added it here. So, how have we developed on this detail? Locals depend on climbers for income, and there are few alternative industries in the region. So, what have we done? We have proved by giving this impact, this result, this example of the local businesses, tourism is supported. Tourism is supporting local business. Okay, this is how we are proving it, that locals depend on climbers for income, and there are no other alternative industries in the region. Okay, now I'm going to give you a proper example. Just hang on for 5 minutes, and you will understand the answer very easily. So this is a proper question. This is how you will get the question in your paper. That imagine you are the writer. You have been asked to tell a travelers club about the impression of the China based on what you saw on a journey. Okay. So this is basically a critique about a journey, train journey in China. And you really liked in the text, the character really liked this journey. Okay. So they are basically criticizing the train's hygiene and hospitality of the staff. So now you will look for the relevant content points in the text. Because you have not read the text here, let me show you the text. Because you have not read this text, so I will just show you the text here like this. Okay, you can take the screenshot and you can read it later properly. I have already highlighted three supporting details that would just prove that the journey was very pleasant. Okay, so you just need to take out three relevant content details that would prove that the journey was very pleasant. So, first is we are ushered to our reserved carriage by a crowd of attendants in peak caps. So, they were taken to the carriages. Some people came, they took them to the carriage. Okay. Second was a smiling attendant appeared. Third was that there was regular rubbish cleaning. Okay, so these are the three things that prove that the train's journey was very, very pleasant. Okay, now let's look at a possible answer that you can write. Okay, this is an example. So I already told you that in the beginning you have to take a strong stance. I strongly recommend this train service. Now, why we have taken this stance? Because in the text we can easily see that the character has enjoyed this journey. So now he cannot say that no, I don't recommend this train. Because if we look at the character's perspective, then he has enjoyed this journey. So obviously he is going to recommend this train. Now I am going to mention the supporting details which are rephrased here. Okay, just keep this in mind that you have to rephrase the supporting details and you have to shorten them also. The boarding process was very efficient as staff guided us directly to our compartments. Now, this is the same thing that we were assured. This is rephrased. The attendants were warm and hospitable. Okay, this content point is where when he the attend then when there was a smiling attendant. Okay, we have rephrased this content point. Frequent trash collection. Okay, this is the third content point, that they would come frequently to collect the trash. Now we will see that how we have developed on it. So we are just going to tell the interviewer that how these details prove that the train service is highly recommended. Okay, and it is very interesting and good to basically get on this train. So these are the developments. Now let's look at the developments here. Okay, so the boarding process was very efficient, saving considerable time and allowing for a seamless transition onto the train. Now you will have to think about it, that how would you prove this supporting detail? How this supporting detail would prove that this train was service was commendable. So you will think about some things. You will come up with some ideas that what did this process do when the staff came and guided you? It saved your time and it allowed a seamless transition, right? So we have added these development here. It's just the extension of this point, but with specific examples. Okay. Second point, attendants were warm and hospitable. Now, what could be the development for this? What could be the impact of this? Creating a comfortable trip and leaving a delightful impression throughout our travel. Okay. Third point, uh, okay, let me just explain this point. Creating a comfortable trip and leaving a delightful impression. Obviously, if the attendants are hospitable and warm, it would create a delightful impression and comfortable trip. Okay. The third point was frequent trash collections. So, what did it ensure? That the environment remained clean and odor free, making for a refreshingly hygienic environment. So, obviously, if there is frequent trash collection, then the environment would remain clean and hygienic. Okay. Now, if you're still confused about the development, let me tell you that development is basically you can give examples. Okay, let me write here what is development. You can write examples, you can give some alternate options, you can give some stats, you can give some explanation, you can talk about the impact. Okay, so this is what development is. Okay, even if you're still not sure, you can see that you can see here that this is what development is: examples, alternate options, stats, explanations, and impact. In these five ways you can develop, just pick one. Okay, you don't have to add all three. All right, now let's talk about the tone that you have to adapt in this response. So you have to have very relevant sophisticated vocabulary. Okay, you have to have very personal tone, like you are talking to the interviewer, very conversational tone, and you can add some transitional words: first, second, and third. Okay, or firstly, secondly, and lastly. So try to add these seamless transitional words also. So let's look at the summary now. Okay, so what is the summary? First of all, clear the stance. Clear one-sided stance. Then three supporting details, rephrased and shortened. Then, lastly, what do you have to do? What can you do? In the end, you can add three developments. Okay. And then if you talk about the tone, then the tone has to be very conversational and personal. So this is the summary. I hope you understand. Now I will give you one answer. One basically a sample question. Okay. So here is the text. This is the text. Look at this text, then read this question and write your answers in the chat and I will answer. Thank you.